Ready to go? Hello, everybody. I am Chef Val, and I've been teaching healthy whole foods cooking classes for 25 years, and I'm the author of 6 cookbooks. This year, I came out with my all desserts cookbook, Simply Healthy Scrumptious Desserts. So today, I'm going to teach you how to make a pumpkin cheesecake with a pecan caramel sauce. It's a recipe out of the new cookbook. So I wanted to thank Gannett and also the Macro Forum. Thank you so much for having me again. I had so much fun the last time. And so I'm looking forward to teaching you this recipe. Now, during my cooking class, I like audience participation. So even though we're virtual, we have the chat. And so ask me questions. That's totally fine. I can answer questions. And then halfway through the recipe, there'll probably be a little bit of downtime. Then I might even say, hey, does anybody have any questions? And you can. I also like comments, like I'm going to use maple syrup. Someone might say, hey, I love maple syrup, right? So it's just audience participation. It makes the class a little more fun. In fact, I'm going to start the cooking class by asking you guys a question. I absolutely adore pumpkin. And every year when fall comes around, I get all excited about pumpkin. I buy these pumpkins and I bake them in the oven. So who here likes pumpkin or loves pumpkin? And do you bake it in the oven yourself, or do you usually buy canned pumpkin? So that's your first question. You can answer it in the chat as I get started here with my recipe. So this is a pumpkin cheesecake that has to cook in the oven for 45 minutes. So I did make one last night, kind of already done. And it's going to be served with a pecan caramel sauce. So I'm actually going to do the pecan caramel sauce first. Never canned. Awesome. I love pumpkin and cook it on top of the stove. Oh, yeah, I do too. I do boiled pumpkin. I do pumpkin in stew. Yeah, canned pumpkin has to be American. That's hilarious. Hoping this year I can grow some. Love pumpkin, love pumpkin, love pumpkin. Yeah, pumpkin nishimi. Yeah. I also like just cut it in cubes and boil it. Boiled pumpkin. Love it. That's awesome. Great. All right. So we're going to do the recipe backwards. As I said, we're going to make the pecan caramel sauce first because it has to cook and then it has to sit for a few minutes before we pour it over the top of the pumpkin cheesecake. Love pumpkin for pie. I buy canned pumpkin, but for the other recipes, I use fresh. Right. And you can get organic canned pumpkin, and now cans are BPA free. So don't think, I mean, some people like me that love to cook, we have no problem cooking those pumpkins. But some people, they're like, I'm not going to go through the, hassle of cooking that pumpkin. So go ahead and use a can, as long as you're getting some organic pumpkin, it's so good for you. Do it that way. Love pumpkin, no oven. I fry it, stew it, soup it. Awesome. Hey, I just, my next cooking class is this coming Wednesday, and I'm teaching how to make a creamy pumpkin soup for breakfast and a buckwheat porridge with pumpkin in it. So I got a breakfast class coming up on Wednesday. All right, let's make this sauce. So in my cookbook and all of my cooking classes for 25 years, with skin on and fry seeds. Oh, I love the seeds. I have always asked, what can I use instead of sugar? My answer has always been the same. It's never changed, and it's never going to change. Brown rice syrup, right? So this is Suzanne Specialties Rice Nectar. This is my favorite. I buy it actually by the gallons because I use so much of it, but you can buy it by the jars. So one of my students pointed this out to me, so I wanted to make sure to draw this to your attention. Do you see this word here that says genmai? Okay. So when if you get Suzanne's, make sure you get the genmai. Okay. Because the genmai means that it's made with 100% whole brown rice. Okay. They didn't throw any white rice in there. Okay. Some people get confused, and some rice syrups that are not high quality, they might throw some white rice in there to create the koji, which breaks down the brown rice to make the brown rice syrup. So if you get Suzanne's, make sure you get genmai, 100% whole organic brown rice. That's what they make their syrup with. And this will never spike your blood sugar level. Even people with diabetes can handle brown rice syrup because it is maltose. when they take the whole grain, complex carbohydrate, brown rice, and they cook it down, they add the koji, which is an enzyme, helps break down the carbohydrate, breaks down the grain. What's left is this beautiful, thick, delicious syrup that you make desserts with, but it's maltose. Maltose will never spike your blood sugar level. Never. Healthiest sweetener there is, brown rice syrup. Now, I do use maple syrup occasionally to make my desserts, and I usually use it in combination, more brown rice syrup, a little bit of maple syrup. And I do that because I teach cooking classes to the general public, and when I'm serving food to people, so many people are used to really, really sweet foods and sweet desserts, right? So to give it a little bit more sweetener, I use maple syrup. Maple syrup, they don't do anything to it. It's just the maple sap that's cooked down. Again, 100% natural. It's always best to buy organic. Maple syrup does have calcium, potassium, iron, phosphorus. So when a natural sweetener has vitamins and minerals in it, it does not affect your blood sugar the way that empty sweeteners that have no vitamins and minerals in it would affect your blood sugar. So that's why maple syrup is a better choice too. Brown rice spikes my blood sugar. Brown rice syrup does not. Question mark, question mark. Oh my God, that's so interesting. Brown rice spikes your blood sugar and brown rice syrup does not. Brown rice syrup gets digested very slow. It usually takes 1 to 2 hours to digest. That's the syrup. But the whole grain brown rice takes a long time to digest also. That is so interesting. Brown rice spikes my blood sugar. Brown rice syrup does not.
No, actually, that's a question because brown rice spikes my blood sugar. And are you saying that in syrup form, it won't?
Well, okay, you are a unique person. That might be you might be the exception to the rule. And I teach in my cooking classes too. I'm like, hey, these are the rules. And by the way, there might be an exception to the rule. There's an exception to every rule. I mean, I've been 25 years, I've been teaching cooking classes. I can't ever remember anybody else telling me brown rice spikes their blood sugar. So that's so interesting. So I would guess for you, if brown rice spikes your blood sugar, then brown rice syrup might also. So maple syrup, I would assume maple syrup spikes your blood sugar too, because maple syrup is
Big time.
Sucrose. Yeah, right. So, yeah, just a unique exception to the rule. Yeah, interesting. Do you have blood sugar issues in general?
You bet.
What?
Type 1 diabetes.
You do have diabetes?
Juvenile diabetes, yes.
Oh, so you have diabetes. So you have to be really, really careful about what you eat.
Yes.
All right. So somebody else, the brown rice spikes theirs too. Very interesting. So do you eat mostly millet, maybe?
Yeah, for me, yeah, all the other grains, a little bit of rice.
Just yeah.
Yeah, millet or sorghum.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, like I said, there's the exception to every rule. And I'm sure that you ladies have been working on this for many, many years, trying to figure this out. So I don't know if there's any assistance I can offer you, that'd be great. Yeah, millet and sorghum. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the recipe. So like I said, I use brown rice syrup and maple syrup. Those are my favorite sweeteners. So brown rice syrup is sticky, okay? So this is your cooking tip. Take your measuring cup and your measuring spatula that you're going to measure the brown rice syrup in and put a little bit of oil in there. I usually use olive oil, organic olive oil. That's my favorite. I have this cute little sprayer bottle and I just spray a little bit of olive oil in there. If you don't, just take paper towel and coat the spatula and coat the measuring cup with the olive oil. Why am I doing this? So that when I measure the brown rice syrup, it doesn't stick to the measuring cup. Okay. So following along in the recipe, we have 1/2 cup of brown rice syrup and 1/4 cup of maple syrup. All right, 1/2 cup brown rice syrup. There we go. And 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Now, if you don't want to use the maple syrup because of the sucrose, you could use 3/4 cup of brown rice syrup. If you are not gluten sensitive, you could also do 1/2 cup of brown rice syrup, 1/4 cup of barley malt. Okay. All right. So then I put it in the pot, and my cooking tip with the little bit of olive oil, it doesn't stick. Like so. Well, it sticks a little bit, but not very much. Anyone know effect of date paste? A few of Chef Val's followers. Yeah, you know what? Later on in the class, like when things are cooking, I'm going to go over all the other sweeteners and the introduction to my cookbook. I go through all of the sweeteners. Okay. Dates are healthier because they have fiber and vitamins and minerals. However, dates are fructose. I personally cannot do dates. They're so sweet that when I eat them, my teeth hurt. So again, everybody's different. Everybody's got their own like variation of what sweeteners they can handle and what they can't. So I can't handle the date. And then we have 1/2 cup of rice beverage. Rice beverage is my favorite. You could use oat, you could use almond, you could use your favorite non-dairy beverage. 1 tablespoon of arrowroot. And I'm going to put that into the rice beverage. And I'm going to dissolve it like that. Okay, because you don't want to put it in there without dissolving it. It could form lumps, right? Let's put that in there like so. Whenever you are making desserts, you always put a pinch of sea salt. Like so. Pinch of sea salt, okay? And the last ingredient is pecans, but we need to chop them up first. So, oh, also too, now the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of this vegan buttery spread. Now the reason why I use that is because traditional caramel sauce has a lot of fat in it, right? It's usually like butter, things like that. So when you're trying to create a rich caramel sauce, that would be my substitute. Gannat told me that they don't have a buttery spread or whatever. So a substitution could be 2 tablespoons of your organic olive oil. I'm sorry, teaspoons. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. Teaspoons. So it's just a little bit. Or you could completely omit adding that little bit of oil in there. Some people are on a low oil diet. Okay. So again, the olive oil or the vegan buttery spread just adds a little bit of richness because that's what fat does, right? And if you're trying to serve the average person, you know, that is used to really rich things, adding just 2 teaspoons. Like I said, that's it. So I'm going to do the 2 teaspoons of olive oil. That's it, to give the richness. All right. I'm going to put this on. Can you use kudzu instead of arrowroot? You can use kudzu instead of arrowroot. Yes. Kudzu is very medicinal. It's very wonderful. When I make desserts, I usually use arrowroot because it's a powder form as opposed to kudzu, which is chunks. But because in the caramel sauce, you dissolve the thickening agent in the liquid, you most definitely could use kudzu here. When we do the filling, I use arrowroot. Okay. Arrowroot is really good for your digestion and your intestines. Okay. So I'm going to put this on the stove. And then I'm going to take 1 cup of pecans. Pecans are one of my favorite nuts. What is some of you guys' favorite nuts? Like if you were making this recipe, would you use walnuts? Would you use almonds? I like pecans because of their wonderful sweet flavor. They also contain vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, which is a natural antioxidant, B complex. Pine nuts. Ooh, pine nuts would be awesome, but pine nuts are kind of costly. Cashews, yes. Any type of nut would work in this recipe. I don't know, when it comes to pumpkin and like Thanksgiving and stuff, I always think pecans, again, one of my favorites. And of course, omega-3 fatty acids for your brain. Look at this pecan. Pecans and walnuts are kind of similar. You know, in Oriental medicine, they teach us when a food looks like a particular organ in the body, it feeds and nurtures that organ. So here we go, omega-3 fatty acids, it looks like your brain. It's got 2 different sides to it, and it's covered with a hard shell, just like your head. All right, I'm gonna put that in there, and I'm just gonna chop up the pecans in the food processor just to save on time. You could do it on a cutting board with a knife if that's what you prefer. All right, so the recipe tells you to let the, oh, there's still a couple big chunks of it. All right, there we go. Now we got some beautiful chopped up pecans. The recipe says to let the sauce come to a boil and cook it from about 5 to 7 minutes. That's creating the caramel sauce, 5 to 7 minutes. And then I'm going to add the pecans. Okay, so let's take a look and see what it's doing here. It's starting to come up to a boil right now. Get yourself a whisk. Whisk it together like so. Okay. Okay, while we got a few minutes before this comes up to a boil that I want you to see. Somebody asked about date sugar, so let me just talk about a few other things. Again, it's in the introduction of my cookbook. These are date sugar is okay. Like I said, it's a healthy whole foods. It has vitamins and minerals in it. Some people use fruit juice to sweeten their desserts. Again, fruit juice has some vitamins and minerals. That's okay. If you want to use the whole fruit and pulverize it, you've got the fiber and the pulp and things like that. So you could use the whole fruit to make your desserts. Another good sweetener. That's a good one there. If you, I'm talking about ones that are okay to use right now. I'll get into the ones that are absolutely terrible in a bit too, but you can put in the chat any ones that you want me to cover. Oh, molasses. So I use molasses at Christmas time. I get an organic blackstrap molasses. If I'm making ginger cookies, which I love ginger cookies. So I do use molasses for the holiday baking. And honey, I do not use honey because I'm vegan. Many vegan people don't use honey. However, honey is a better choice than white refined sugar. Okay, so some people choose to use honey. I don't. Honey is very sweet. Honey would do the same thing to me that the date sugar does. It would like it hurt my teeth, so I can't do that. All right, we're at a boil. Look at that beautiful caramel sauce coming to a boil. Can you see that? I hope so. There's the camera. You can see it. Look at that. Caramel sauce. Yum. All right. I am going to set the timer for 5 minutes because I don't want to overcook it. All right. So we've got 5 minutes and then we're going to add the pecans. Can you mail Gnat ginger cookie recipe? Yum. Thanks so much. Excellent presentation. Can you, the ginger cookie recipe that's in my year-round healthy holiday dishes cookbook. The ginger recipe has frosting on it too. It's in this cookbook, year-round healthy holiday dishes. Okay, let me clear some of this away. so that we can do the next part of the recipe. Pumpkin. Here is my beautiful pumpkin that I baked in the oven. So when you get a pumpkin that you want to bake, you want smaller sized ones. These are what are called pie pumpkins. The really large ones that you carve for Halloween, you can bake those. You can eat them, right? But these are sweeter. These are smaller. The smaller the pumpkin is, actually the sweeter is, the more sweetness is concentrated. So this year, oh my God, the pumpkins are so sweet. This is probably like the 6th pumpkin I have cut in half and baked like this. And if I don't use up the pumpkin flesh myself, I put it in the freezer so that I have this beautiful, fresh, frozen pumpkin, you know, baked pumpkin throughout the whole year. Okay, so that's what I do. You scoop out the seeds. You could, you know, a lot of times I just go ahead and bake the seeds because I have already roasted so many seeds because I do so many pumpkins. I don't need any more seeds. But if you wanted to scoop out the seeds and roast them, by all means, do that. But then you scoop out the flesh. And this is what you use right here, the flesh. Okay. All right, let's set this aside. Okay, so you have one 15-ounce can of pumpkin or 2 cups of the flesh like this. Pumpkin. Oh my God, there's so many health benefits to pumpkin. Of course, the high fiber content is good for blood sugar balances, good for your heart, good for your brain, excellent for your digestion, all that fiber. And it has zinc, vitamin C, vitamin E, antioxidants, contains beta carotene. Beta carotene in your body converts to vitamin A. Vitamin A is really good for your eyesight. It can actually help you see better in low light conditions. You find that in pumpkin. Another thing that's really great about pumpkin that I learned when I was working with a lady who had lung cancer, pumpkin for your lungs. Okay, there's an antioxidant in pumpkin, which is really good for your lungs and your breathing and your bronchi. If you have asthma, you know, bronchitis or anything like that, pumpkin is awesome for that. So yeah, in my course of teaching cooking classes, I also cook for people, and I work with people that have health conditions. And this lady who, she had lung cancer and she changed her diet, and I cooked for her. I also counseled her and I walked her through all the foods that she needed to include and everything. And she did use some medical intervention too. She was working with a doctor, so she was taking some pharmaceuticals, and that's her choice. But I think the food really helped, and she overcame the lung cancer. So awesome success story. The filling is squash and also good for your lungs. Yes, squash is also good for your lungs. How does it go botanically speaking? I do believe a pumpkin is a squash, but squash is not pumpkin, if I said that correctly. So interesting, actually, pumpkin, they classify as a fruit.
There's summer squash and there's winter squash. So those are the
true.
differences.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so a pumpkin is a winter squash. It's not a summer squash, but yes, most definitely. So food processor, we need to puree. Oh, there's the 5 minutes. Over here. All right, let's add the pecans to our sauce. Okay, and then I'm just going to mix the pecans in there, and then we're going to shut the heat off, and we're going to let this set. Now, the recipe calls for you to let this set for about 12 minutes. And the reason why I had it set for so long is because right now, if you were to pour this on top of the tofu cheesecake, it would go all over the place. It would ooze, which is very delicious. And if you wanted that presentation, you could go ahead and just pour it over and it'd be yummy. But if you want the caramel sauce to more sit on top of the cheesecake, you know, instead of just oozing all over the place, let this sit. Okay. So, and again, that's why I did the recipe backwards. I kind of did the caramel sauce first, because again, I want to be able to pour it over the finished pumpkin cheesecake and show you what that looks like. All right, back to the filling. Here we go. Oh, bless timers. You know, I never ever use a timer unless I'm teaching a cooking class, because I don't want anything accidentally happen. And that comes from teaching cooking classes for 25 years. And then my first job was in a delicatessen where I made pizzas. And after a while, you just kind of get to know how long 8 minutes is, how long 10 minutes is, how long 20 minutes is. And then because I cook so much, I'll put muffins in the oven that cook for 25 minutes. I usually don't set a timer unless I'm in a cooking. But that's just because I'm doing this all the time. So we have 2 cups of pumpkin. Let's follow along the recipe. We have the Moridu silken tofu. Okay, so this is silken tofu. Now, I use the silken tofu in the desserts because of the texture. It's nice and, as the name implies, silken and soft. If you want to use fresh tofu, you can use fresh tofu, okay? You just have to pay attention because this is 12.3 ounces. So usually when you get fresh tofu, it's 14 or 16 ounces. So you would not use the whole package, okay? This is the silken one sits on the shelf. So it's not refrigerated, which means it does have a preservative in it, which is again, why I tell people they have the option, they can use either one. I usually only use the silken tofu for desserts because of the texture. And it is non-GMO soy. They used to make it organic. They used to say organic across it. And a couple of years ago, they didn't, but it is non-GMO. Whenever you buy soy food, make sure it's non-GMO. We do not want genetically modified food, medicine, or anything else in our body ever, right? Okay, so to get the tofu out of the package, you flip up the corners like this, and you flip up the corners like this, and then you cut it. The tofu in the pumpkin cheesecake helps the end texture to be firm so that when you cut it into a piece of pie, it remains in a piece of pie. Can you buy non-shelf silken? Yes, the same tofu you would buy in the refrigerated section. You can buy non-shelf silken, yes. Isn't the liquid amount different in the 2 tofus? Yeah, okay, so fresh tofu in the refrigerated section, you can use that in this recipe. You just have to make sure that this is a smaller portion. This is 12.3 ounces. The stuff you get in the refrigerator is probably going to be 14 or 16 ounces. Okay, what's the other one? Refrigerated section, liquid different. Yes, this one probably has less liquid than fresh tofu. I don't think the liquid is going to matter. The recipe will turn out either way. If you're going to use fresh tofu from the refrigerated section, get firm or extra firm. Don't get soft. Soft has even more water. I can honestly say in 25 years of teaching cooking classes, I have never used soft tofu. I always go with the firm or the extra firm, because even though it says firm on it, it's kind of soft. So, I mean, that's just my experience. Oh, I understand. Thanks. Good. Awesome. All right. So we've got the pumpkin, the tofu, and now we're going to put our sweetener, which would be brown rice syrup and maple syrup again. And let's look at the quantities. We want 3/4 and a 1/4. All right, so we want 3/4 and a 1/4. See how it pours? Now this is another cooking tip for you. I am using the same measuring cup that I used earlier to make caramel sauce because it already has that little bit of oil in it. And I'm measuring the same thing. I'm measuring brown rice syrup and I'm measuring maple syrup. So you don't need to get another measuring cup, dirty more dishes. Let's just use the same one. Okay, so we'll just pour it in there like so. I don't know about you, but pumpkin pie, when I was a kid, was one of my favorite desserts. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Of course, my mom would make the pumpkin pie, right? So it's getting to be that season, where we start thinking about the pumpkin flavor. All right, so our spices are 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. It is 1/2 teaspoon of cloves and 1 teaspoon of ginger. We have a pinch of allspice. Allspice is one of my favorites. I include it in just about all my pumpkin recipes, and a pinch of nutmeg. Now, nutmeg is got a bite to it. It's the one that's got a bite to it. So I just use a pinch, okay? Just a pinch of that. Okay. So remember earlier when I made the caramel sauce and I used arrowroot, and someone said, can you use kudzu? For the caramel sauce, you can use kudzu. For this, I want you to use arrowroot because it's a powder and we're putting it right in there like so. So the kudzu would be in chunks. You can't do that. So 12.3 ounces silken, if shelf stable, 12.3 ounces extra further refrigerated tofu to adjust water content. Yeah, either one of the tofus, the silken tofu I'm using, or a firm tofu that is fresh in the refrigerated section. The water content's not going to matter that much because we've got the arrowroot in there to thicken it. Okay, so that's going to help thicken the liquid in there. The water content between the refrigerated and the silken, it's not going to make a difference. You can use either one, just so you know. We're also going to put some agar flakes in there. So we need 2 thickening agents. We need arrowroot and agar flakes. So we have 3 tablespoons of arrowroot, 2 tablespoons of agar. Agar is freeze-dried red algae, right? Vitamins, minerals, calcium, iron, protein, all that's in the agar flakes. Okay, let's see. I think we need a pinch of sea salt. Always have to put that pinch of sea salt in your dessert. It brings out the sweetness, makes it more flavorful, makes it more delicious, and it balances the yin and the yang, right? So we're going to puree this up. Ready? At least once when I'm pureeing this, I always scrape down the sides. And make sure you get all the bits in there. Everything's good. Now we got some pieces of tofu I can see on the side. So we're going to scrape that down again. Hey, that looks beautiful now. What it looks like. So right now it's pretty liquefied as we pour it in the pot. Now this goes on top of the stove for about 5 minutes and it's gonna start heating and it's gonna start to activate the agar flakes and the arrowroot. When I first started macro cooking, when I first got involved with it, I was trying to make recipes out of cookbooks. And when it came to pies, my pies would always fail. I'd bake them in the oven, they'd come out of the oven, and the middle was like liquefied. And then I discovered this is the trick. Whenever I make a pie now, there are exceptions to the rule though, as we talked about exceptions before, but most of the time when I make pie, I put the pie filling in a pot and I put it on the stove and I heat it up. And I start the thickening process on the stove so that eventually when it goes into the oven and cooks, my end product comes out beautiful and it doesn't ooze all over the place. Like it would be like a pie soup. It would be like a pie soup. We don't want a pie soup. We want a beautiful pie, right? Okay, I am going to put this on the stove and we're going to heat it up for about 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so back to a little bit of information about sweeteners. So we covered the ones that are good and occasional, and we use them. Now, another one I do use to make frostings that's a little on the sweet side, and I use it like at Christmas time, is succonac. Succonac is unrefined natural cane sugar. So that one is probably the sweetest thing that I do use, but I use it occasionally and I only use it to make some frosting recipes. Now, absolutely not agave. Agave is terrible. You know, they came out a few years back. Well, it's been a long time now, over 10 years. Agave is the latest, greatest thing. It's really good for you. It's healthy. And right away I was like, no, it's not. It's terrible. And again, I would have that same reaction if I ate anything that had agave in it. It's like my whole mouth just hurt. Okay. Well, come to find out, agave is 70 to 90% fructose. High fructose corn syrup is 55% fructose. So agave, 70 to 90% fructose. It's higher in fructose than high fructose corn syrup. Your body does not know what to do with something that is that intensely sweet. So you know what happens? It bypasses your digestive tract. It doesn't get digested the way normal food does. Agave gets digested in your liver. I don't know about you, but I want my food to get digested in my digestive tract, not my liver. So anything that is intensely sweet, ridiculously sweet, your body will bypass the digestive system and digest it in your liver, which is why some of these artificial sweeteners that are 300, 500, 600 times sweeter than white refined sugar will look like to somebody who has blood sugar imbalances that it's a better choice because it's not affecting their blood sugar. Well, you know why? Because it's getting digested in their liver. That's why. So then we get a toxic liver situation going on, right? Stay away from agave. And stevia, 300 times sweeter than white refined sugar. Stevia will get digested in your liver also. Anything that ends in TOL, xylitol, xanthitol, malitol, sorbitol, that is the chemical. If it ends in TOL, it's made in a laboratory and it's a chemical. The human body was not made to ingest chemicals, right? So we stay away from chemicals. Monk fruit is 150 to 250 times sweeter than white refined sugar. And of course, all the horrible aspartame, NutraSweet, Equal, let's stay away from those. They're chemicals. Beet sugar is highly refined, and it is estimated that 95% of beets are genetically modified. That is so sad. 95% of our beets are genetically modified. We don't want that. All right. Did I miss anything? If I missed any sweetener, put it in the comment section. I'm going to get ready to make the crust. All right, so somebody said monk fruit. I think I covered that, but I believe it's 150 to 200 times sweeter than white refined sugar. Again, I've got all this in the introduction to Simply Healthy Scrumptious Desserts. Monk fruit, 150 to 250 times sweeter than white sugar. It gets digested in your liver. So YACON, okay, never heard of that one. Yacon, is that from another country? YACON? I have not heard of that one. Haven't heard of YACON. All right, so I am going to make our pumpkin cheesecake gluten-free for people who want to eat gluten-free, although you can use any type of flour in this recipe. And I cover that in the introduction of my cookbook too. You can use a spelt flour, you can use an organic whole wheat, you could use buckwheat. The lady who presented before here, I love buckwheat flour, one of my all-time favorite flours, love it. Now, when I make desserts though, my favorite gluten-free flour is oat, because oat has a nice moisture content. And so the recipe usually doesn't end up being dry, okay? So I do use oat flour for the gluten-free recipes. This is a pressed pie crust, so this is very easy to do. Here's my sweetener. Here's my sweetener. We have crust, olive oil, brown rice syrup, and water. Okay, crust is 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of brown rice syrup. Going in there like so. And 2 tablespoons of water. 1, 2, pinch of sea salt, 1 1/4 cup pecans, which we will chop up in the food processor, like we chopped up the pecans for the caramel sauce. Nice small pieces for the crust. And pour that in there now. Okay. I love the smell of pecans too. Oh, the smell coming out of this food processor. Yum. All right, let's check the pumpkin pie filling and see what's going on with that. Have it over here on medium heat. And you don't have to stir it all the time. You don't have to babysit it, but every couple of minutes, I just whisk it and I can feel the heat on the bottom is starting to activate with that arrowroot. I can feel with the whisk in my hand that this is starting to thicken, okay? I think this needs maybe 2 more minutes, and then that will be good, okay? All right, let's go back to the crust. So we got olive oil, brown rice syrup, water, pecan, sea salt, and now we have 1 1/4 cup of oat flour. So we mix it up. All right. So this is a pressed pie crust. Very easy to put in there. Okay. And it comes together. You know it comes together when all the flour gets incorporated in the wetness, okay, and it sticks together. So you can press it into the pan. Now, for cheesecakes, you use a springform pan. Do you have to use a springform pan? No, you don't have to. But traditional cheesecakes, that's what you use. Okay. What is a springform pan, in case you don't know? It's a pan that after it's cooked, you just release it here and it comes out. I'll show you the end product. You'll see what I'm talking about with that. Now you do need to oil this. So hopefully it won't stick once it comes out. So we just put some oil in it. And you just press this in there like so. Okay. Use your best kitchen tools, hands. Make sure they're always clean. Press it in there like so. Okay. Now, in case you haven't been there yet, macroval.com is my website. I teach cooking classes all the time. In the month of October, I am featuring the beautiful, delicious pumpkin. As I mentioned, next week is breakfast soup. It's a creamy soup and a buckwheat pumpkin porridge. The following week is an in-person class where I'm teaching pumpkin spaghetti, and I'm also teaching bread and a pumpkin hot chocolate. And then the following week, there's a couple new dessert recipes. I'm doing pumpkin peanut butter fudge and pumpkin pudding. And then the last Wednesday of the month, I'm doing a casserole, brown rice pumpkin casserole. There is the crust. Okay, and let's get the filling. So the filling, it's still liquid. See, it's still pourable, but you can, when you make this recipe at home, you can totally feel the bottom of the pan where the heat is hitting there. The arrowroot is starting to thicken this. This is going to turn out beautiful once it's baked in the oven. Now preheat your oven to 350 degrees. This is going to bake for 45 minutes. You're going to make this recipe. I suggest that you make it the night before because it bakes for 45 minutes and then you put it in the fridge. You're going to serve this cold because it's a cheesecake, right? But you let it set up. Put it in the fridge, you let it set up, okay? All right, put it in there like so. Looks beautiful. I wish you could smell this. So good. Here we go. That's what it looks like before. Go in the oven for 45 minutes. And presto, by some means of magic, this is what it looks like when it's done. Because I did this one last night. Okay, this is what it looks like when it's done. And the springform pan, you know what I do before? I take a knife and I usually go around the edge. It's going to come off, right? Just make sure it comes off like so. How are we doing on time? Oh my God. Almost done. Just want to do a presentation where I show what it looks like. Okay. I also host a radio show, Real Food with Chef Val, twice a week. And I share a recipe. There's a recipe of the month on my website. And the radio show, you can listen to the recordings. All the recordings are on my website. I talk about food, health benefits of food, why food is so important. All right, so that's the springform pan. What was wrong with monk fruit? 150 to 250 times sweeter than white sugar, monk fruit, okay? So it does not get digested in your stomach. It's digested in your liver. Monk fruit, okay? There's a couple little pieces on here. Let's taste it. Oh my God, it's so delicious. Mm. Mm. So delicious. All right. I'm going to pour the sauce over the top. What are some questions you have? Go ahead. You can ask me questions. You can type them in the chat. Okay. All right. Now, normally you let the caramel sauce set up. Yeah, question.
Sure. Thank you for that tip on monk fruit. Thank you for that, those words on monk fruit. 1 second, I got an echo.
Carol, are you on twice? Are you
I,
sending
I,
twice?
I think so. Let me just
I
get
think that's
off.
why you have an echo.
Yeah, okay.
That is what it looks like when it's done. Okay. I can cut a piece. You can see what it looks like when it's cut. Now, did somebody want to say something? Who's having problems with the echo?
Yeah, I think so, but now I got distracted by the echo.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. It's okay.
Oh, the radio station. What is the radio station? Letters, call letters or whatnot.
Okay. It's online radio. It's blog talk radio. Just go to macroval.com, my website, and there's a thing that says listen to Val's radio show. And it
Oh,
is-
okay. And what day is it?
Well, it's on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. That's to listen to it live, but all of them are recorded. So if you can't
Great.
listen to it live, you can listen to the recording.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, you're so talented.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Now,
Mhm.
I also have a YouTube channel.
Uh-huh.
And I just uploaded a video about my story about how I overcame eczema. It's a kind of a long story, but there's a really nice video on YouTube. And basically, sugar has a lot to do with my eczema story. When I was about 19, my body broke out with eczema. It was very bad. I mean, all over my hands. And this was before I discovered macrobiotics, but I knew that if I ate sugar, I would start scratching and the eczema would get really bad. So at a very young age, I knew sugar was contributing to my eczema. So I would stop eating sugar for a year period of time. This is before I was educated. So I would turn to NutraSweet. So that's what I thought, it didn't affect my scratching. So anyways, I discovered macrobiotics, which was a blessing. The eczema did get better. However, fast forward 6 years after eating macrobiotics and being healthy, I was in a very stressful place in my life. I was in a relationship I should not have been in. So I was very stressed out. Eczema over my whole body, except my face, from my neck down. It hurt to put my clothes on. So I was eating healthy sweeteners, maple syrup and brown rice syrup, but my body couldn't handle them because of the stressed out state and the eczema I was dealing with. I did a hair analysis, and I also found out I had a toxic level of aluminum in my system. So I had a toxic level of aluminum. I was completely stressed out, and my body could not handle any sweets whatsoever. So I went on their regimen. I did take supplements for a few years because my body needed them. That was my choice. Everybody can make that choice, whether or not you do that. Perfectly up to you. This is what I needed. And I cut out all sweets. I didn't even have my beautiful brown rice syrup for 3 months. No sweets, none whatsoever for 3 months. And it really knocked down the eczema, but my adrenal glands were not working. The hair analysis also revealed that my adrenal glands were not working. So I spent years rebuilding my adrenal glands. I took supplements for a couple years, but then I turned to herbs. I like plants so much better. I am happy to report no eczema for 30 years. And my adrenal glands are working much better, and I don't have any aluminum in my system anymore. But that takes years to heal. But anyways, there's more to the story. If you want to go to my YouTube channel, I just have a video. How does aluminum get in your system? Well, I used to drink Diet Coke every day, 6 to 8 cans. Yes, before I discovered macrobiotics, I drank 6 to 8 cans of Diet Coke a day, aluminum cans. I used to eat cheese. Cheese was my favorite food. There is aluminum in cheese. And of course, pharmaceuticals, especially injections, have aluminum. So all those things contributed to me having a toxic level of aluminum in my system. But thank God it's all over and done with now. So that's my healing story. This tofu cheesecake. Thanksgiving, Christmas is coming up, or Halloween. Do you want a sweet treat for Halloween? This would be great for Halloween. You know, make this for Halloween so you don't eat all that bad stuff that you don't want. If you get a chance, Simply Healthy Scrumptious Desserts is on sale at the website, macroval.com. And I've got the YouTube channel. I've got the radio show. Yeah, and check out my cooking classes. I offer classes all the time. And I think that's it. I'm running out of time anyways. So thank you so much for having me again. This is so much fun. I love audience participation. I love all your questions and your comments. This is great. Yeah, had a blast doing this again. So hopefully I'll come back again and let me know what you want me to teach you next time.
Well, I thank you. You're really, I mean, we know that you're a professional and you really just bring the class off so nicely and so smoothly. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I think I will leave it at the thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Great. Bye-bye.